of this show, you can look right now over my right shoulder for the last time at the Penguins' blue sweaters. You will never see these vile things again. This morning over at the skate, the Penguins, who were supposed to be wearing these monstrosities for the game tonight against the Sabres, were decked out in black and gold, which is to say they were decked out like a Pittsburgh team should be. They were supposed to wear them tonight. They got scrapped. No one's saying exactly why they got scrapped. I asked a couple of players, and they just said, it's just time to get ready for the playoffs. But let's be real here. These jerseys, in addition to being the wrong colors for the city and really having no historical significance whatsoever because they never wore them, so it's not like they were some kind of throwback, were the shirts in which Sidney Crosby got his concussion, got his jaw broken, Evgeny Malkin got his shoulder hurt. I don't believe in curses. I hate when readers write to me about jinxes and you can't use the words no-hitter in a tweet or in a column or anything. But enough is enough. It's time for these things to go. They were going to get rid of these things anyway after the year. Now they're done. Next year they're going to be going to a different third jersey, one that they work kind of in concert with the NHL when they do these things. The NHL has people that design them, and then the team kind of has to give its blessing to it. My suggestion for next year, don't overthink it. Those gold unis that Mario Lemieux wore when he was a rookie, we're about a year and change away from the 30th anniversary of the singular event. That's the only reason that there's even a franchise for the NHL here in Pittsburgh, and that's Mario Lemieux's draft year in 1984, his rookie year of 84-85. That's the way to go. Don't overthink it. You're going to do a throwback, do a legit throwback. People made fun of the Steelers Bumblebees. Remember those last year? At least those were real throwbacks. At least that went back to something. That was what they wore. The original Steelers, of course, they were called the Pirates back then, in 1933. They had some significance. Yes, they were horrific, but at least there was a reason for them. There wasn't, it wasn't just some marketing person in Madison Avenue who went, ooh, look at this sketch. Here's something pretty. There's going to be all kinds of fun related to the Penguins over the next couple of weeks, even with Sidney Crosby out. It's a fascinating situation with this streak. They could reach 16 tonight by beating Buffalo. Thomas Vokoun will be back in net, trying to go for a third consecutive shutout for a franchise that never before had even had back-to-back shutouts by the same goaltender. It's an amazing stretch. And yet, we're over there this morning, and all the talk in the locker room was about the shirts, and all the talk in Dan Bilesma's press conference was about Randy Carlyle. For those of you who don't know, Randy Carlyle is in addition to being the former Norris Trophy winning defenseman of the Penguins back wearing those yellow shirts, is now the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And if you haven't heard the idiotic remark that he made yesterday in Toronto, I'm going to read to you the full context of it, just so that nobody can say, oh, it's out of context, that's not exactly what he meant to say. Here's the full context. And he's talking about the Eastern Conference playoff race as a whole. Here goes. When Pittsburgh goes out and does what they did, and of course he means, the big trades, it sends a notice to everybody else that you've got to be prepared to bolster your lineup. Sometimes those additions work and sometimes they don't. That's the thing about sports. If you look at that in a capsule, Pittsburgh goes out and makes a big splash, then they lose their best player when a puck hits him in the face and breaks his jaw. He's the best player in the world right now. Is that the hockey gods sending a message? You scratch your head. That's the full context. And yeah, you know what, Randy? We are scratching our heads. We're scratching our heads at how any head coach in a major professional sport would look at the star player of that sport, not to mention a model citizen, and find in that, even if it's just for humorous purposes, some sort of justified retribution because that team went out and made a couple of trades in the past week. It's tasteless. It's tacky. And coming from Toronto, it's just completely nonsensical. I mean, if the hockey gods have it in for the Penguins in any capacity, imagine what they have in store for the Maple Leafs for the next 40 years. Maple Leafs, of course, have not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. They haven't had an appearance in the final since that year. They haven't even been there to compete for it. They haven't made the playoffs for 7 years. Looks like they're going to make it this year. And this one's my favorite. The Maple Leafs haven't had a leading scorer, scoring champion, I should say, in the NHL since 1938. That's pre-World War II. And that's 40 years of that. More like 30 years. 30 years of that came in a 6-team league. 6 teams. We're talking about 100 players. The Maple Leafs didn't once in that span have a guy lead the league in scoring. If there's hockey gods with wrath anywhere, believe me, they save most of that wrath for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Randy Carlyle needs to be a man about this and apologize. It was a lousy thing to say.